You can change the bias of the output tubes by playing with this 8.2K resistor. It will give you some -4 volts in my case. And I put in this, I think it's a 10K pot, to regulate the bias. I also used some new tubes and the bias is quite okay. I have to check the figures, but it's approximating 40 watts. Originally the amp had this bias set up at -3 volts, and the other tube -3.8 volts. But the amp originally came with very mismatched tubes. The plate current, was very different. There was like 50 milliamps of difference between the two tubes. When I put in the new tubes, the figures changed and they sort of equalized. -2.8 voltage drop on one side and -2.7 on the other side, and then we were in the 30 milliamps, 36 milliamps per tube. This was only dissipating like 12 watts, 24 watts in total, which was not enough. These are the actual values I went with, and how the amp is biased now. It's -4.7 and -4.3 on the different tubes, and giving me like a little into the 50, 55, 56, 57 milliamps, and this is giving me 19 watts on each side. It's like 38 watts, which looks good. I had to reduce the resistance a little to, I think it's 4.2 K to get the bias right. I also removed most of the stuff on the front panel regarding the phono inputs for the record players. This was a plug input jack kind of thing, and this too, and there's a switch which got deconnected now. I might reuse it for something else. So we cleared out this part. So the two halves of the 12AX7 are used for the separate channels, and I will do some modifications to this blues channel. That's how I termed it. And what we will be doing is putting in some resistance here on the cathode, and maybe a bypass cap to increase the gain on this blues channel. I will keep the other channels stock for reasons of comparison, so I can still compare the sound. Compare the Fender Bassman schematic with that of the Geloso. We see there is some resistance, 820 ohms, and a bypass cap on the cathode. In the Geloso, the cathode is directly connected to ground, and there's no resistance and no capacitance here. So I'm gonna change that to the Bassman setup. But still, I think the value that's given here, like 250 microfarads at 6 volts, is way too high. At least it doesn't have any effect on a guitar. As the amp was probably designed for bass guitar, this might explain for the very high value, but I don't think for a guitar frequencies it makes any difference, and you can get away with a 25 microfarad. First preamp tube, I cut the connection from that cathode where the alligator clip is connected to the center, which is a ground lug, and we'll wire in some capacitance and some resistance. Here I put a 22 microfarad capacitor and a 1K resistor in parallel, and on the jumpers, but I jumpered the jumpers. So let's just first try out how it sounds with the cathode directly connected to ground. There is some noise because of the antenna situation I created here, so, but still. notice much difference. Microfarads, double the value of the basement, with the same capacitor 1K, shorted now. With the resistor and capacitor. Okay, I now put in a ECC81, which is lower gain and more comparable to the basement. Okay, this is just no cathode resistance. It's more. Now let's add the 470 microfarad capacitor and the resistance. I had to completely redo the input jacks and mount them on some metal plate, which is going to be attached in the inside, so that the metal parts of the jacks get proper ground. There was some real-time metal working involved, which I'm not an expert at, but I succeeded in making this plate to mount the jacks on. Okay, the jack plate is installed and the jacks are mounted now. Oh, that's dark. We're dealing with another problem here. The pot that is setting the volume for the second channel is very intermittent. It should be turned all the way. It's all the way open now. It should be all the way down. We should have 500K. We only got 370. And when I turn the bit, it goes into open lead. And then it raises in resistance. I think I'm gonna replace this. Of course, I have this very nice original Geloso replacement pot from one of my other amps, and it at least measures up to 465K, which is close enough for rock and roll. Okay, I switched the knobs, but I used the 1 meg pot that was used for the phono input, just to see what difference it would make. This is a 500K on the first input. Now we have a 1 meg here. Okay, the reason I put these chicken heads on the Geloso is because originally they have these round knobs. They do have a pointer, but it's not really clear. So it's much easier to see from a distance what your amp is at using the chicken heads. We didn't do much today. At least we fixed the inputs. Now they're solid and well grounded, which had to happen before anything else. This switch has got to go. It's no use. And we'll have to hardwire the resistor to the jacks or something. We have the two channels with their volume. This will have to become a master volume in some way, and next time we will tackle the tone stack, which is in fact really surprising and has some mid-scoop if I check the Duncan tone stack calculator. But let's try it. Oh, it's not plugged in. Damn. Okay, that's much better. The problem with the tone stack is that it is very, very noisy. It's quite efficient and it's almost perfect, but it's very, very noisy in some way. We'll check again and see. So if I turn up the different channels 1 and 2, you will hear a profound difference in noise levels and different noise. It's quite this is quite okay until you go like three-fourths of the way. But this one, the one I changed and I redid the wiring, has a different kind of noise, static noise, which is maybe due to improper shielding. But it's still quite loud at this setting, so I'm not able to play very loud today because it's already late at night. So when I start the neighbors or the wife.